for watching Numbskull News, and today I'm going to get back into this Pac-12 crap. We're going to get into a John Wilner article that he wrote, and it features the Washington State President Kirk Schultz, or Scholes, or however you say it. I don't know. There's no T. Yeah, I'm used to Schultz. There's no T. Whatever. I'm going to call him Schultz because I don't know. Anyway, Kirk Schultz, as I said, Washington State president, and he was once the president of Kansas State. Now, keep in mind, all right, Wilner is using him to kind of bolster the Pac-12, give a little positive news out there, but it's all propaganda. It really is. It's bullshit. And Kirk Schultz, he's doing what he's supposed to do. I mean, he's the Washington State president. If you think about where Washington State is in the realignment world, they're screwed, right? I mean, especially if Oregon and Washington jet, what are they going to do? All right, they're headed for the Mountain West. And of course, you don't want to go to the Mountain West. They're desperate. All right, Washington State is desperate, just like Oregon State, for the Pac-12 to stay together. All right, because an invite to the Big 12 is probably not coming if the Big 12 can get the four corners, or possibly Oregon and Washington. I wouldn't mind them coming into the conference. I'm just talking about schools that are additive to your overall money situation, and I don't know that Oregon State or Washington State is additive. So there's no guarantees beyond the Pac-12 except for the Mountain West for Washington State. So that really sucks for them. So he's in a position where he's got to bullshit as much as possible out of pure desperation. And I'm going to call him out on that. Now, I first became aware of this article, to be fair. This guy has a YouTube channel like me, a small channel. He's bigger than me. Kuz's Corner. Not bad. I like his southeastern accent, if you will. But he was a lot kinder than I am going to be to this guy, Kirk Scholes. And I'm going to have a little different spin. To me, it's just pure propaganda and bullshit. And there's no reality to it at all. For instance, all right, so Kirk Scholes and the president for Stanford and the president for Washington, all of them combined, they're like this, Pac-12, committee, main committee, and they advise Kliavkoff, right? And it's funny because Stanford and Washington, if the Big Ten comes a calling, they're gone. All right. So don't sell me the solidity shit oh, we're unified. No, you're not. I just think it's hilarious that he's on this committee with those two who would bolt in a minute if it's the Big Ten. So I'm not going to go word for word, line for line like old Kuz did. I'm going to go through the lines of bullshit that's in here. Just the shit that's just pure, unabashed propaganda. So let's go. Well, the start of this article is total horseshit. The Pac-12's pursuit of media rights contract, which began more than 8 months ago in the middle of a roiling summer, is close to being resolved, according to the university president who sits on the Pac-12 Board of Directors Executive Committee. Washington State's Kirk Schultz has a time frame in mind. No, he doesn't. All right, that's some bullshit by John Wilner, because what does he actually say? My sense is we need to get it done in March. In mid-March, hopefully, Schultz told the hotline on Monday. The longer it goes, the more noise there will be. That is not a timeline. That is not affirmation of it being close to being resolved. That's the first bit of horseshit. Now, that's not on Kirk Scholes. That's on John Wilner being a dipshit. There's already plenty of noise, with frequent reports speculating about a disappointing media contract and frustrated schools seeking salvation in the Big 12. Well, I don't know how much they're really, going after Big 12 or salvation from the Big 12. I think that's some bullshit. However, yeah, disappointing media contract, that's saying it about as lightly as you can, that the media contract negotiations are just plain horrible and embarrassing would be a little more accurate. And let me give old Schultz a little pat on the back when he's talking about that joint statement they issued. He said, I thought people would see it as the same thing as a head coach does when he says publicly that he loves his staff, then fires them all. That's about right. That's about right. But so I give him a little pat on the back. Now I got to give him a little slap in the head. But we are getting battered constantly with all the rhetoric out of the Big 12 region, with the talk that schools are leaving. At least we had to let people know the Pac 12 schools were committed to staying together. Um, that itself is just a bullshit line. All right. Look. We are getting battered constantly with rhetoric out of the Big 12 with talk of schools leaving. Um, you are, yeah, you are, but that's not the reason for that joint statement. The reason was you had one of your own regional media members, Pac-12 media member, who put out just a scathing article about the horrible crap that George Kliavkoff is pulling, and that he ain't doing a job worth a damn, and it was backed up by an anonymous AD, or sorry, I think it was an anonymous president or AD, I can't remember which, but an anonymous AD from a school somewhere, from a Pac 12 school. That was horrible. That was a horrible PR hit, and that's why they put out the joint statement. It wasn't from Big 12 media outlets. That's not why. You can block that shit out. All right. I don't care if it's, John Kurtz or Dennis Dodd or whoever. You can block out Dennis Dodd. You can't block out your own guys who cover the Pac 12 and who are Pac 12 friendly, putting out a scathing article featuring an anonymous AD. You can't ignore that one. It's too close to home. So they put out the joint statement, and it was embarrassing. And he admits it was kind of embarrassing, but the reason why, that's propaganda, that's bullshit. And then he wants to talk about the other presidents that were so willing to put that out. Wow, the speed, it stunned him that his colleagues that just all came together for that joint statement. Shut up. That's just that's dumb. And I love this shit. Based on private conversations with presidents across the conference, old Schultz senses some trepidation about the specific media rights deal, but doesn't expect anyone to flee. Well, he's praying that no one flees. He's desperate for no one to flee because he doesn't want to be the president of a school that's in the Mountain West. He wants more than that. This guy comes from the ACC. He's been a president in the SEC, been a president in the Big 12, Power 5 guy. He doesn't want to go to the Mountain West. And I think there's a little more than trepidation when you're talking Apple TV. That's all I'm saying. I think it's more accurate to say people are pissed and expect more than that. And he says some schools have a little trepidation yeah, about what the media deal will look like. But I don't feel at all like anyone is spiraling off into places of despair. No, but if this shit keeps up, they're going to be spiraling off to the Big 12. That's the only person that's going to be in despair is Oregon State and Washington State when they can't get in anywhere. And some of the biggest bullshit is, of course, when you blame fans, that's rich, right? That's always the last place you go is blaming the fans because of your sorriness. It has nothing to do with the fans, all right? And the fans aren't wrong, by the way. Fans think about the money, but are you really improving your situation? Yeah, $100 million goes a long way to improving your situation. A lot of schools have thought the grass was greener, and they went after more money, but they haven't enjoyed the change. It sounds like you're talking about Colorado, buddy. It sounds like you're talking about Colorado. You're not talking about UCLA. You can't be talking about USC because they haven't played one Big Ten game yet. All right? They haven't done any travel. They haven't done any of that shit yet. You can't sit there and say, well, they went after more money, but they haven't enjoyed the change. I don't think that's correct whatsoever. I mean, I think Texas A&M has enjoyed the change from when they left. I think Missouri has enjoyed the change from when they left. You know what I'm saying? But Colorado probably hasn't enjoyed it. I mean, maybe educationally they have. They've enjoyed being part of this little elitist club. As far as football and basketball, they've been downright embarrassing. And I don't think they and the Big 12, they were a dominant national power. Not so much anymore. And right here, this guy just I don't know. This he's talking more propaganda bullshit here. It's easier for a school to go through a 12-team conference and to get to the playoff than it is to go through a 16, 18, or 20-team conference, he said. What the hell are you talking about? I mean, look, he may have maybe a slight point with the 4-team playoff, but we're going to 12 teams. All right. So you look at USC and UCLA. All right. 16-team conference is what they're looking at. What does that mean? That means you don't have to play Ohio State and Michigan in the same year. More than likely, you'll play Ohio State one year and have Michigan the next year. You won't have to face the toughest of the tough teams every single year. That's what that means. In the Big 12, when it was just 10, everyone plays each other every year. If it's 12 teams, everyone plays each other every year. So you're kicking the living hell out of each other. But when it's a bigger conference like 16, 18, or 20 teams, you're not going to face all that shit. I mean, just look at Alabama. They don't have to play Georgia in the regular season every year. The same thing with Georgia. It helps not to have to play Alabama every freaking year. And if that was a 10 or 12 team conference, they're playing every year. And so it makes it a lot more difficult. And here's some dumb shit right here from this guy. I don't get it at all. I follow the Kansas State message boards, he said, and there were guys reporting every month that it was imminent that the corner schools were going to the Big 12. He said it was imminent in October, then in November, and in January. But at the end of the day, we have to get a deal done. That's the only thing that will quiet everybody down. Why are you following Kansas State message boards? I know he used to be the president in Kansas State, but why do you give a damn about what fans say in Kansas about college realignment? I mean, shouldn't you be above that? I mean, you got a doctorate. What it says right up here, you got like a doctorate in chemical engineering and shit. I mean, highly intelligent man. So why are you getting sucked into Kansas State message boards about realignment talk? I mean, are you talking about living? I mean, whoever these people in the message boards, they're living in this guy's head. So as you can see, a ton of that shit is propaganda because he's talking about, well, we got to get a deal done. Well, no shit, we got to get a deal done. But that's not, he doesn't know any date and who you're going to deal with. I mean, it's looking more and more, it's not going to be ESPN. I mean, the rumors are that ESPN in the Big 12, or sorry, ESPN in the Pac-12 hasn't talked in weeks. And all they're offering is $10 million a team, $100 million. That's not going to get it because you got to find another $20 million somewhere. And it doesn't sound like that, like that's Amazon. Is it going to be Apple TV? I mean, which is, of course, a way lower rung. That's like one of the bottom rungs in streaming right now. I mean, it's Apple. It's conceivable one day that they build a nice, big, huge, competitive platform for streaming. It's just not there yet. And I don't give a damn if you can't get your tier 1 rights on linear programming, ESPN, Fox, NBC, CBS, something of that nature. You're not staying together. All right. Oregon and Washington, look. And everyone's like, well, if they can't get a deal in Oregon and Washington, they're going to go to the Big 10. Bullshit. If the Big 10 gave them invites today, they're gone. They're in the Big 10. They are not going to stick around and try to figure out a TV deal for the Pac-12. They're out of there. They don't give a shit. Look, they're trying to make something work because they don't want to have to go to the Big 12. But if they have to, they will. If they want a part of a grant of rights where they can get out upon getting an invite, I think that sucks for the Big 12. I would basically say, no, you're here until 2031 if you want to come to this conference. I know that it's Oregon and it's Washington, but The Big 12 does not have to be super desperate here. There's only one desperate conference right now. That's the Pac 12. If Oregon and Washington want to go to the Big 12, I know they don't. But if it's like, okay, we got to do something, we want to play on ESPN. We want our tier one ESPN, Fox. And if you can't get that from the Pac 12 and you can't get enough money to validate having your shit on streaming, then you know what? They probably will go if the Big Ten is not an option, which I don't believe it is right now. There's no evidence that it is right now. Now, maybe in the Big Ten's next media deal, they can get something worked out to where they can bring in Oregon and Washington at that point. But if I'm the Big 12, I'm like, look, I'm cool in 2031 if you want to go to the Big Ten. But if you want to come here, you're here till 2031. You got to have a grant of rights signed. You got to commit for at least that long. It can't be, okay, in a year, the Big Ten says, come on, and so we can go. Or in 2 or 3 years. No. You got to stay here for till 2031, or you can go independent, or you can go to the Mountain West, or you can stay in the Pac-12 and make $20 million each. It's up to you. So I just wanted to take a little bit of time. So I haven't really discussed any of the BS propaganda coming out of the Pac-12. A lot of people, like John Kurtz, has covered that and done it eloquently. But this article right here kind of pissed me off, especially when it comes from a president. And I'm like, at least tell the truth, right? Like, tell us why this joint statement came out. Don't pin it on the Big 12 and some jack-off YouTube channels like mine, or blame it on Dennis Dodd or 365 Sports or John Kurtz. No. That's a Pac-12 media guy with an anonymous AD talking shit. That's why y'all put it out. At least tell the freaking truth. Actually, I commend those 10 teams for coming together like they did. Because the 8 remaining teams of the Big 12, dude, they were on the phone calling every conference, every other conference trying to get in somewhere, some other Power 5 conference. Because after Texas and OU left, they were screwed. I mean, screwed hard. Only after they were told to go kick rocks by the SEC and the Big Ten and the ACC and the Pac-12 did they solidify, come together, and add 4 schools. And then they were able to solidify. Then they came together because, look, we're in this shit together, guys. Let's go. They had no choice. Okay, that's... So I commend those 10 teams. Hey, USC's out, UCLA's out. Let's come together. Let's do the best we can. The problem is the expectations of $40 or $50 million per team without UCLA and USC is completely narcissistic, dumb shit. They have completely screwed themselves. And they let themselves be outflanked by Brett Yarmark, who went to market early and got a deal done for the Big 12. And the Big 12 didn't have the same arrogance of, we should just hold off for another year. We'll be worth way more money. We can get 40 or 50 million a school. They didn't do that. The bottom line is you are going to lose schools because there's no TV deal out there. There's no partners that to tell you the truth, is worth a damn. And I'm not trying to crap all over Amazon or Apple TV. I kind of have. But that's only because the top schools remaining in the Pac-12 don't want Tier 1 rights on streaming. Everyone knows this. This is public knowledge now. And if they did want it, you would probably have a deal done. But yeah, I just had to call out this bullshit. This I don't know. This president, this guy here, I understand why he's bullshitting. I understand why he's bullshitting. Because Oregon State and Washington State, they're probably in the worst situation of all the remaining Pac-12 teams. They just are. And I don't blame them. I wouldn't want to go to the Mountain West either. I just wouldn't. And there's nothing wrong with the Mountain West, except for the money and the exposure. But really, they'll have more exposure than the Pac-12. More people will be able to see Mountain West games than Pac-12 games, especially with streaming. Anyway, I'm just going to stop. I'm going to stop ranting on this guy. So that's it. And I'll be back with some other bull crap later. Bye.